Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss 11 ways to know now is the perfect time to retire. When it comes to figuring out when to retire, we have two things that we're trying to figure out. One is we're trying to figure out the facts and the figures. Do I have enough money to retire? On the other end, we're trying to figure out the feelings. Am I ready to retire? Do I know what I'm going to do with my retirement? Do I feel excited about retirement? There are 11 things that you should consider, probably more, but we're going to focus on the 11 most important that I've seen when it comes to answering the question, is now the right time for me to retire? I love to start with the facts because that is where most people are trying to really wrap their heads around. How much money do I need to retire, Dre? Am I on track? Am I hitting the number that I need? We have lots of videos where we talk about how do you know if you have enough money, but it really comes down to knowing exactly how much income you need, how much your Social Security is going to be, how much your expenses are going to be, so that you know that it is that mandatory time, that you have the amount that you need. Now, granted, oftentimes, because we're not sure about the number, we often want to have an excess amount of money because we're like, I don't really know how much I need. So if I have more than enough, then I don't really have to know. I just have so much that I won't ever have to worry about it, which is one of those things that I find a lot of people deal with. They don't know exactly how much they need, so they just want to have a lot. So that way they don't have to think about it as much. But you often find if you actually list out what your perfect lifestyle would look like, you may find that you've already achieved all of those financial goals. You may have already got rid of the debt. You may have already achieved the amount of money that you need. You may already be projected to have the income that you need the rest of your life. You may have already achieved everything. So if you have already hit some of those financial goals where you said, you know what, I want to be able to pay my mortgage off. I want to have my cars paid off, and you're able to put a significant amount of your investments towards your retirement, you may be ready to retire. Now might be the perfect time. You don't want to just simply be waiting for this magic number because we're told, hey, don't look at retirement before you're 60. Don't think about it until you're 65, 70 or a little bit older. But we often have to look back and judge the system for what the system is designed to do. And that design is to make lifelong employees. When you know the system is designed to achieve a certain goal, if that goal is not aligned with your wishes and desires, then you have to have a different plan in place. And I'll give you a quick example. So before the Great Depression, most people were done with school around 14 years old. You went to elementary, you went to middle school, and then you got your job and you started everything off. Now you may say, well, Dre, people were dying and they didn't live as long back then. And that's true. You may say, well, people were getting married earlier back then, so it made more sense. That's also true. But it is also true to say that because of the Great Depression, there weren't that many jobs available. So they had to figure out what to do with all these people. And so they said, maybe we should send them back to school so they can learn some skill set that maybe they can then work in the factories. And so the idea was maybe if we have them go to school a little bit longer, the economy and the amount of jobs now, we don't need as many. And we may be able to teach them some skills where they're more valuable to the workplace, which is important to understand when it comes to our system. Our system is designed to create lifelong employees where most of the skills we are given is to accomplish that goal, which helps keep the wheels moving. But if you are no longer interested in that system where you want to be able to take a step back, take back control of your time, you may be able to say, okay, well, the system wants me to stay in school till I'm 18, and then I may go to college and come out at 22. And ideally, they want me to work until I'm 65. Well, then maybe that isn't what I have to do. Maybe just like before the Great Depression, you were able to start working at 14. You can get married early and do all these other things. Maybe the system was making a decision not based on what's best for you and I, but what's best for it. And if the goals aren't aligned and you've accomplished your own financial goals, then now is the perfect time for you to retire. There's no reason to wait for some arbitrary number that we were told is that when we should retire. We should say, if I have the financial goals already accomplished, then now is the perfect time to retire. Next on our list is external factors, where we're worried that the relationships that we have at work or the company's not going to be doing very well. There's all these external factors. Maybe the market isn't doing well, where we feel like maybe now is not the right time based on the overall market conditions. And when it comes to something called sequence of returns, which is a very fancy way of saying you retired in a recession, you retired in a down market, and as a result, you were taking money out of your retirement funds at the same time the market was essentially taking money out of your funds. So it was like it was double dipping in your funds. And as a result, you end up running out of money much quicker than you would have if it wasn't like you taking money out and then the economy was also taking money out, which is fair. There are many people who say, I'm going to work an extra 5 years because the economy isn't right. There are people who will say, I'm not ready to leave because my best friends and the value that I bring to the company, and they can't find anyone to replace me. And there's so many things that we contemplate externally. But in a lot of ways, the perfect time to retire is similar to when the perfect time to have a kid. If you have to line everything up to have a kid, you and I both know then it will never happen. You never will have everything perfectly set up for you to have a kid. Sometimes you just have to have the kid and then you make the adjustment as things go. When things are better, you do things a little better. When things are worse, you make the adjustments and things go a little bit worse. But it doesn't change the fact that you're enjoying the experience along the way. Now, you may look at retirement and say, you know what, Dre, I don't feel that way about retirement. I don't really want my retirement to be perfect on its launch off. And I can appreciate that, but there's so many external factors that come into play. What if the government decides to change some of these programs where we have these tax incentives and they just take them away? Because there are bills that stalled in the House or the Senate that were doing just that. Would you have to go back to work? What if we have another recession? What if you're retiring right before COVID and then no one can have a job? Would you go back to work? There's just so many things that are always happening, and you're going to go through many recessions. Mathematically, it's about 1 every 10 years that we seem to have a recession. So we don't know when the next one's going to happen, but we do know it's going to happen, and it's going to happen again and again and again. While it may be true that now may not be the perfect time to retire based on some external factor, but it's also true to say that you could put a plan in place that allows you to retire in any market. And there are some ways they run models and different numbers, and it's called like stress testing and Monte Carlo model. Again, very fancy terms, but the idea is we can make the adjustments to the plan as the economy and the external factors change. If you really do miss your friendships with your friends, maybe you can meet them from lunch and still not have to work there. But if you feel like you really want to work, and that's fine, maybe you want to work something different, maybe you want to work somewhere part-time, however that looks for you, well, then you can do that. But it doesn't change the fact that you should not be allowing these external factors to determine when you should retire. There is simply an adjustment that you make to your plan that allows you to retire in any market, in any situation. Sure, it may not always be perfect, but it does not mean that you cannot have a fantastic retirement and unlock wealth for your future generations. That leads us nicely into the next one, which is family considerations. We're always thinking about our family and how we help them. How do we make sure we stay together, that we have a good core nucleus, that we get along and there's love and different things. And sometimes we're often thinking, okay, I think I've sacrificed a lot of my time with my career and different things. So I want to spend more time with my family, but they're in the midst of their career. So maybe they can't quite separate themselves either. And I often think of like Jay-Z and Beyonce. I mean, Jay-Z had this one song where he was talking about Beyonce, and he was sort of in that been there, done that phase of his life where he felt like he got the albums, he had the platinums, and he just kind of wanted to get married and have kids and settle down and all that fun stuff. But at the same time, he knew that Beyonce was in a part of her life where she was where he had been. And so she was grinding and she was working in her career, and he knew that she wasn't ready to settle down. Now, we all know how the story ends. They eventually were able to get on the same wavelength, but that is something that a lot of people are struggling with, where it's like, I'm retiring, but my kids are raising their kids, or they're in their career so they can't take off, or their money's tight because they're trying to figure things out. Do I help them with their finances? Do I invest in different things? Do I travel still? Do I pay for them to go? There's so much that we're thinking about with our family, because that's what we've always done. We always are looking out for our kids. So we often think about them and how we make our decisions. When it comes to retirement, you should definitely not be working just so that you can support your family. If they knew that, I'm almost positive that they would say, no, we'll figure it out. Please retire. Have a great time. Now, if you said you want to retire so that you could spend more time with them, that's what I think they will be excited by, because at the end of the day, how much do we truly remember of our Christmas presents and all the other birthday presents and all those things that we've gotten over the years? I would say you don't remember much of it, but you remember the trips that you go on. At least I do. I remember the trips that I went to. I remember when we would get in the car and we would drive to like Orlando, and my dad would be driving and he had the old map, right? So we didn't have like the Google Maps. It wasn't around yet. And we did this crazy thing where the first theme park we saw, we would just go to that theme park. Even if we left to go to Disney World, if we saw SeaWorld first, we would just stop at SeaWorld and say, you know what, we're good. If we were literally, sometimes we were looking for the hotel that we had reserved and we couldn't find it, that we would just go into the hotel that we found cancel the old one, book it in the new one, because we would just be driving around. And sometimes that's just how things end up working out. We have this idea in our mind of what the perfect retirement scenario would look like. But the truth is, we could retire at any point in time. Just like we were able to go to any theme park that we wanted to, we could go to any hotel that we wanted to. Even though we had it preset in our mind what perfection looked like, we still had a great time. And we didn't need all the extra stuff and the bells and the whistles. We had fun a lot of times because of spending time with each other. And you'll find that in retirement, you don't have to keep working because you're so focused on funding parts of their life. That's going to come and go. You really want to be focused on the experiences that you can create with them, the places that you can go. And that is something that you gain when you retire now. When you retire now, you have your time, and now you can spend the time with them. And you may be able to spend it in some of the most insignificant ways to the naked eye, but it's the things that they'll remember. The stuff that we buy, all that stuff, people forget about that. At least I have. Now, I will give the caveat because I have heard someone say it, and it's true in some regards. If you want to be memorable, you buy someone a Rolex, right? Like, that's the truth. You're not going to forget who bought your Rolex. But a lot of the other stuff we do forget over time. So I just want to give that caveat because I know someone's going to say in the comments, no. There's some gift that I've never forgotten. And it's true. There are some gifts that we'll never forget. But I would still lean towards the idea that you'll remember the experiences that you were able to create much easier, much readily, and a larger array of them that will genuinely bring a smile to your face. Even the Rolex, I bet you'll think of the moment, the experience, what they said to you when they gave it to you. It's rarely the stuff. It's the experiences that we create. So do not work because you're worried about the financial support that you're giving family members. Focus on the love and the experiences and the environment that you can create in your family culture when you take back your time and retire as soon as possible. So move back to the fact side of reasons to retire right now, and that would be your pension. So there's certain companies where to get your full pension, you have to work a certain number of years or you have to be a certain age. If you've reached that number, then why not retire? And there is no extra benefit to your pension. And maybe you'll say, well, Dre, there's a little bit of an extra benefit. But again, you have to at some point value your time more than the money because you continue getting the money. You've already guaranteed yourself a pension, which means that if you spend that money, you're going to get another check the next month. But your time, it doesn't work that way. There is no pension for your time. We don't know how much we have. So you have to value your time more than your money. And if you value your time more than your money, once you have the pension, once the company gives you the full access to it, then you should definitely consider retiring now. Now, others of you, you may have personal goals and you may not have achieved them yet. If you haven't achieved your personal goals, then that is a great reason to retire now. Because once you have access to your time, then you can focus all of your energy on those goals. The places you want to go, the things you want to do, the experiences, the legacy that you want to create. As you gain your time back, now you can start checking off a lot of those personal goals that you had always been thinking about and you always wanted to do, but now you're able to do it. Others of you, if you downsize where, again, you paid off your house and maybe you wanted to, but you know what, the kids are gone, let's get something smaller. If you lower your expenses, that is often a great time that you can retire right now because you don't need as much to be able to retire. You often want to look back and update your numbers. If you had a certain number that was set based on the lifestyle that you had and you paid off a lot of the debt and you're downsizing so you have smaller expenses as far as your home, you should definitely look and consider whether now is the perfect time for you to retire. You may have enough money set aside for your new lifestyle. And you hear a lot of people that are talking like the FIRE movement and different things where they have a minimalist retirement and it works very well for them. They don't need that much money. We have lots of levers when it comes to retirement. We have the time lever, we have the money lever from the income, and we have the expenses lever. If you lower the expense lever, then you don't have to give as much time. And if you lower the expenses and you get more of your time back, then now might be the perfect time for you to retire. Many times downsizing shows that someone is in a place where they realize that their happiness isn't tied to the stuff. It's tied to the experiences. And as we make that shift, it's that much more likely that working is going to lead and cause burnout. If you wake up each morning and you feel like it's very hard to wake up, I don't know if you know, but the studies show that literally Monday is the most common day that people die, which I thought was absolutely crazy. But if your job is literally sucking the life out of you, as people say, then you have to look and say, you know what? This change that's been going on with me, I used to be able to fill this hole with stuff. So I bought all this stuff and then the hole didn't really stay closed. it got bigger. The more stuff I bought, the deeper the hole I was in, the more committed I was to this profession. And as a result, I had to continue working to maintain this lifestyle that doesn't even satisfy me. So a lot of times I find people downsize, it normally means that they realize all that stuff wasn't doing much for them. And if you're there, then it's more likely that you're ready to retire because you're no longer going to be tricked that working and the money is what's going to bring you the happiness. You already are well aware that the experiences, the life that you live, the memories that you create, the significance and the impact that you make, that is what brings you that satisfaction, that happiness. And I mention the book all the time, and I love the book. It's Happiness by Design. And it talks about the idea that everything we do is tied to either pleasure or purpose. That if you're able to satisfy your pleasure and your purpose with your time, that it leads to happiness. And for most people, if they're unhappy, it's because they spend so much time doing things that brings them neither pleasure nor purpose. So if the work that you do on a daily basis is to bring the income in, and it does not provide you any pleasure or purpose, then that's easily going to lead to burnout, and it's easily going to deteriorate your quality of life, which may end up shortening your retirement because of the stress, because of the anxiety, because of the burden of continuing to work, which naturally flows into job satisfaction. Now, I've had many clients where they'll say, I enjoy the work that I'm doing, but I don't like the people I'm working with. Now, you and I know that even though we can say we like what we're doing, the people that we're around has a huge impact on how we feel about the work that we're doing. That if the boss that we had or the leadership team or the mission of the company, that was something that we loved, if that person leaves, it completely changes the environment and the feeling that we have going into the office each day. If the company was sold to someone else and they completely changed the culture of the company, that would change significantly the impact that you feel and the satisfaction that you gain. So if something significant changed at the place you work and it causes you to feel that anxiety, that burden, that stress we're talking about, and you know that it's going to lead to burnout, if you don't feel satisfied at your work, you might as well consider retiring right now. Retirement, again, just means to withdraw. You're withdrawing from the idea that I have to give my time to receive money. Retirement is the idea that I can use money to receive money, and now I can use my time to do whatever I want. And it feels so much better to spend money that's not tied to your time. Where when you're sitting there counting a trip where you're saying this would be a month of my salary, 2 months of my salary, 3 months of my salary, if it's all being generated by money, then it's not tied to any months of your salary. It's just simply money that is growing money, and you feel a lot better spending that. When it comes to your financial readiness, you want to be able to answer questions like, how much income is this going to be generating for me? How much money did I need to have the lifestyle that I wanted? Is there any other financial considerations that I need to cover? And where is all of my money coming from? Do I have money coming from a pension? Do I have it invested in real estate? Do I have invested in the stock market? Is it in my 401k? How do I withdraw the money? And I'll put a link to a video that talks about withdrawal strategies as well. And it's just the idea that if I'm financially ready to retire, that I have all the boxes checked, that I have put a plan together and I follow the plan and we hit the number, and it's simply a question of how comfortable I'm going to be in retirement, and you're still feeling that burden. It really comes down to prioritizing your time. And I know I've mentioned that a few times, but how much is the time I have left worth? Right? Like, how much is the time I have left? How much of my time am I willing to give? And I often give the same example. When you have musicians, you'll see that they go on tours and they're always performing on the road all the time. Same in sales, where this person, maybe they got college, they're grinding, they work like 11, 12, midnight all the time. They travel every other weekend, and they could do that early on in their career. They're grinding, they're trying to establish themselves, their name, their credibility, so they can move up the ladder, right? We all go through that part of our life. But then we get married or have kids, or we just get tired of having to sleep in the airport, and we really sit back and think, is this worth it, right? I think I'm ready to be able to sleep in my own bed each night. I think I'm ready to be able to see my kids and to do these different things with them. And as a result, we end up having a small shift in that understanding of what we're willing to sacrifice for the money. And when you have that shift, more times than not, you've made the decision right then, like, I'm going to value my time more than my money. The only thing you have to do from that moment forward is to start investing your money in a way that it purchases your time. Whether you leverage your money to buy more time or whether you just simply store it away in a consistent and disciplined approach, once you value your time more than your money, you know I can get more money, but I can't get more time. And as soon as you understand that, then you already are well aware that retirement as soon as possible is the best option for us. We feel that the time is on our side, but we all understand that the time is fleeting. The time continues to seep out the hourglass, and we have a list of things that we still want to check off. And we have mentioned that before. But once you have that financial readiness, I understand that we may feel more comfortable if we're able to continue working, but at what cost? There are people who are unable to enjoy their retirement because of the stress of work, because they worked too long. Whatever the situation was, they were unable to enjoy their retirement. Either their health deteriorated, like right when they retired, or something happened. They got in a freak accident, or they just passed, like something happened, and then they were gone within a month or two of their retirement. You don't want to assume that you have a whole bunch of time because you're like, I just want one more dollar. I just want to be slightly more comfortable. I'm someone who can appreciate the idea of being comfortable, but I do oftentimes tell people to put a dollar amount on it. Don't just say that, peace of mind is priceless. There's a price for peace of mind. There's always a price. There's a price for everything. So let's put a number on peace of mind, and then let's see if that makes sense. Let's see if that is worth it. Now, you still may look at me and say, you know what, Dre? I really need that peace of mind. I promise you, I cannot enjoy this retirement unless I have that peace of mind. And then we'll look at the number, and then we'll go for that number. If that's the number that you need for peace of mind. But I'm not going to let you keep moving the goalposts because you're just uncomfortable about the idea of retiring. But as long as you understand that there is a cost and peace of mind isn't priceless, there is an amount that each of us should be able to say, I don't need that much peace of mind, right? Like, I don't need to be guaranteed something, because often a guarantee means that we're paying someone for that, right? If you have an annuity with a guarantee in it, sure, annuities make sense, and there are plans that are put together where they have annuities, but at the same time, it's a guaranteed income, which means that because the risk is on the insurance company to generate higher than that so that they can pay you the difference, they end up making significantly more. Most of the time, the guarantee is like 2%, 2.5%, like a really small number that really is something that each of us could put a plan together and achieve that number. But because we want a peace of mind and we wanted the guarantee, we're paying a significant amount of fees for a guarantee that is almost guaranteed regardless. That leads us into the last two reasons someone should consider retiring now. And both of them have to do with each other a little bit. One is age. We've talked and we've hinted and we've discussed this idea of time and how your time is your most valuable asset. And we all say it and we all believe it. And we say that time is money, but the truth is time is way more valuable than money. Time is so much more valuable than money because you can get more money, because money is just something that we exchange for something else. Whether the money is gold or diamonds or oil or a dollar or a euro or anything, we know that we can trade certain things for other things, but you can't trade for more time. There's not enough money that you can give someone for a certain amount of time. Now, granted, we do make that trade early in our careers because we don't have the skills necessary. So we'll say, we'll give you our time, teach us the skills, and then we'll be able to pay you back. And as a result, they give us money. And as we move up the chain, we get a little more money, or we have to work less hours to get the same amount of money. But oftentimes we have to work more hours because that's just what is asked of us is our time. And as long as you understand that each year of our time is something that we don't get back, and that it likely leads into the very last one, which is health concerns, we all know that generally in retirement, our spending is sort of this smile where we spend a lot early on, and then it sort of dips off in the middle because I've been there, done that, got a couple t-shirts, like I'm good. And then it kind of goes back up as we have different health concerns where we have to pay for these healthcare expenses. Well, if we understand that that's the pattern, that's what's likely is going to happen, then we know that the time that we have is limited. And we know that 70% of people who are 65 and older have a long-term care need. And if you have a long-term care need, then that's going to impact your ability to travel. It's going to impact the time that you spend with your family. It's going to impact the experiences that you want, the personal goals that you've set for yourself. So then why are we all making plans to retire at 65? Now might be the perfect time for you to retire because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what health issues we may have. We don't know what setbacks and challenges we may face. I remember when I had taken the risk when I first started business and I quit my job, and it was a really rough time. And I did not have any health insurance. And I was like, I'm healthy, I'm good, there's no problems, I'm going to be okay, I'm always okay. And then I ended up going to Nigeria with my father-in-law. We went to a wedding and it was a great time, except when I got bit by a mosquito that had malaria. And then I had to figure out how to deal with that hospital expense. Now, I did not know that I was in get malaria. I didn't even know that you could take these vaccines before you go. I didn't know anything about it, but now I know. And if I did travel, I would take the malaria medicine so that I'll be good when I travel. Sometimes we make these gambles with our life and we're like, I'm going to be fine. It's always going to be fine, but everything's fine until it's not. And then what do we do if it's not fine? Then we're sitting there and we're thinking, man, I should have taken advantage of the time that I had when I had the time. And now I don't know if I'm going to get any more back, right? We don't want to be sitting there. I used to listen to Les Brown, and he would share this idea that all of your dreams are sitting around you and you don't want to die with a song inside of you. And if you're someone who's just really worried about how the company's going to do without you, whether you serve people inside the company or whether you serve people through the company, however that looks, and you're worried that no one's going to be able to fill your shoes. And the truth is they're probably not going to be able to fill your shoes. But at the same time, if you ever heard the poem of the indispensable man, it's this idea that if you fill up a bucket of water, then you stick your hand inside of the bucket, and then saying that is your impact, right? That hole that you created from your hand being in the bucket. And then you pull your hand out, and it's like, what happened to that hole? And obviously the hole isn't there. The water closes immediately. None of these companies are going to die when we die. Most of them are going to be around. They're going to be here before us. They're going to be here after us. But our family, the experiences, the smiles that we're able to create, that's the stuff that lasts forever. I mean, the Bible says essentially the only thing that you get to take with you is your memories. And that's where you should focus your time, creating these wonderful memories. If you create the right memories by retiring now with the people that you love, that's the stuff that they're going to be celebrating. That's the stuff they're going to talk about. That's the stuff that they're going to remember. Everything else is going to perish, right? Everything else we're renting. The land, it's going to come and go. The wealth, it's going to come and go. It's going to go to the next person who provides value to the next person. But the memories, that's what we get to hold on to. And that's why retiring now might be the best thing for you. If you found value in this video, I simply ask that you like and subscribe to continue receiving valuable information on how to unlock your generational wealth through strategic retirement planning. Until next time, continue blessings.